It's about the timing.
It is about the timing. And right now the Lord doesn't have a home for me, but like I said, just like you're not homeless, you're just houseless. And for now I'm good with where the Lord is bringing me. So, oh, are they? Do they need to? Do I need to? I'm sorry.
Right.
There you go. Come here, honey.
A lot of people join 24-hour fitness and Planet Fitness, so they have a place to shower.
Oh yeah.
They sleep in the parking lot. They shower
Yeah.
there, and then you would exercise there.
Yeah, I would, because I was at Anytime Fitness in Wisconsin, so
But
yeah.
It's that gives you 24-hour freedom.
Yeah.
Especially if you get a plain white van, you can sleep anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, Brad, God bless you. Thanks for the conversation.
Nice meeting you.
And thanks that I could pray with you.
Continue the good work.
Yeah, well, one day, my brother, you'll be an extrovert like me.
Oy vey.
Be careful what you pray for. Well, there was Brad. And another interesting encounter. This one, yeah, he was a business owner, and I just stopped him. He just stopped me right away, and we just started talking. And immediately I went into the conversation about what the Lord has done for me. And he is a believer. And it was, he had a lot of, he actually owns this RV over there. He kind of left everything and decided to hit the road. He stays by himself. He was in Seattle, Washington, and the thing with Seattle, Washington is he said that so many people, come on Mario, so many people would rob him, and he was continually getting robbed. And I said, well, what did that do to you as a believer? He was talking about people like, the scum of the earth, and I could just tell that he had kind of lost his love for humanity. And, this is what God does. It's interesting because I didn't realize how much he had lost his love for humanity. So this is the RV that he travels in. And at the end of our conversation, I said that I was going to drop off some books for Brad. I'm actually giving him a ministry of healing, and I'm giving him Steps to Christ. I never know where the Lord is going to lead the conversation. Okay, I'm trying to record this. This is not working. Okay, let me get back to the story. That was his RV. So I never know where the conversation is going to lead. And so I walked the whole parameter with him, telling him about me being a missionary. I told him how the Lord saved me when I was in Wisconsin. I told him about the book, The Purpose-Driven Life. I told him just how things, what I do, how I do it. I gave testimony about some of my encounters and how random they are. And so it was a very engaging conversation. And, and then he talked about how he was robbed and the scum of the earth. And then that's when I asked him about, how does that make you feel as a believer? But he did always go back to, he talked a lot about the Mormons. He says, look at them. They knock on everybody's door. Their families are really awesome. And he says, why can't the evangelists do that? Why can't, the Christians do that? He says it really says a lot with what they're doing. And he says, then I see the Catholics, they got these big families, and I agreed. I said, but there is a difference between what I do and what the Mormons do. And what they do is for works. And I said, we know that grace is a free gift, and I'm not working. This is not work for me. I already have the free gift, and I want to share it. So we talked about that. We also talked about loving thy neighbor. He said, and we talked about some interesting subjects. He talked about, he says, homosexuals and gay people. He says, where do they get this idea that we hate them? We hate them. He says, and I said, and this goes back, and this is one of the beginnings of our conversation. Because I said something about having Camp Esther, and we're going to be talking about brokenness with women, and getting over all the things that we go through, And he says, oh yeah, he says, like women, oh poor me, the guy screwed me, and the guy did this and the guy did that. And I said, no, 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 it's not about what the guy did. It's about us. We have free will. We need to take responsibility. And I said, this is the problem. This was the beginning of one of the conversations. I said, this is the problem with us. I said, we have labels. Everybody has a label, and then everybody's finger pointing at the other person. I swear Satan doesn't want me to make this video because now I ran out of storage. Okay, listen to this. So I told him very specifically, I said, this is the problem. When we don't have our identity in Christ, our identity becomes whatever is temporal. We become the world's identity. You are the broken person. You're the ADH person. You're the depressed person, or you're the whatever, the empath. We also take identity in our job, in our career, whatever it is. But he says, yeah, I'm a banker, and I'm this, or I'm the football player. He says, now I'm the RV guy. He says, you're right. What do I call myself? I call myself the RV guy. I said, we become what we behold, and whatever we behold, if we're not beholding Christ, we become that. So you're the RV guy right now. That's your identity. But that's not your identity. Your identity has to be in Christ. So if you're beholding Christ, you become Christ, or more Christ-like. And that's where our problem is. We are beholding the temporal world, and we're losing our identity, and that's why we're having problems. That's why we have no identity, and we're all messed up. And if we had our identity in Christ, it would make such a big difference. And I said, now, I'm not the nurse, and I'm not the high-profile athlete. Who am I? I'm a daughter of the Most High. So we talked about that, and that was really powerful. And so now, get this, at the beginning of the video, what did I say? I said, I never know where the conversation's going to lead, because we talked a lot. And then I asked him too, I said, how's your relationship with Jesus? And he said, oh yeah, it's fine, it's good. And I just had this feeling that, it was, and maybe it wasn't, because I just felt this disconnect with him. And I said, well, I tell people about the story about, Christ indwelling in us. And when we get up in the morning, what are we doing? Are we talking to Christ? Are we talking to our house guests? Are we ignoring our house guests? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, you make a point. And so I didn't know. I just didn't, I could tell that he's probably not spending that time with Jesus. So then we continued down the rest of the path. And here comes these people with some dogs, and they ran into Mario. Mario, the missionary dog. Here he is. There's the missionary dog. Yeah, that's you. And so I started talking to these people who had the dog, and the lady had a scar on her hand, and her puppy accidentally, is a big puppy, accidentally, bumped it with his teeth. And she's like, oh, there, he bumped it again. And I said, what happened? And she says, oh, it's a scar from, I had an accident not too long ago. I said, well, and she says, I'm doing physical therapy. I said, it looks like it's not healing. She says, yeah, it's taking a while. So I said, you know what? You need to do charcoal. And I told her about charcoal. She says, oh, I've been trying to do natural remedies. I said, do charcoal. Then I told her about the compress for the castor oil. And I said, oh, hang on. I got a book for you. And so I pulled out the Ministry of Healing. And I said, we know that all these remedies are great, but we can't heal without the great physician, and that's Jesus Christ. And she said, oh yeah. She said, like, that's awesome. Thank you for the book. Thank you for the book. We just moved here and I don't know anybody. I said, well, now you know me. So then I walked away, and the guy looked at me, and he's like, wow. He says, you just draw people in. He says, I see that. You just draw them in. He says, and you know what I do? I try to repel people. He says, you see these little ear pods? I put them in so I don't have to talk to people. See, then I knew exactly what the Lord was doing. And I said, you know what? I used to be like you. I used to have those too, and I used to be right on the path, and I wouldn't look at anybody. I wouldn't talk to anybody. I was here to train. And I said, look at what the Lord did to me. I said, do you think I want to be like this? Come on, do you think I really want to be like this? I said, I am now an extroverted introvert. And I said, I was like you, an introvert, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. But I said, we are called. We are on a great commission. What we have is really important, and we need to share it. And it doesn't take much to share it. And he's like, wow. He says, you just, wow. And I said, oh, it's the Lord. You just saw it. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe what he just saw. He said, I just can't believe you just did that. And I said, and think about it. That book, I put in my backpack and I prayed over it. I said, that particular book, you see how I pulled it out and that book was for her? He says, yeah, that's crazy. He's like, I can't believe that was the, I said, yeah, that's the Lord. So he saw an encounter with his own eyes, and I could tell what an impact it had on him. So then we're at the end of the trail, and I said, well, I got to get going, but can I pray for you? And he's like, oh, and he was like scared. I said, it's okay. I mean, I said, it's really okay. This is what I do. I can pray for you. And he said, okay. He's a believer. And you know what? He was embarrassed, I believe, to pray. I really do. I don't think he's ever prayed with like somebody in public. But I felt, I didn't push him. I said, it's okay if you, he's like, oh, okay. And he held my hands. I said, do you want me to pray for anything? He's like, no, I'm good. He says, I'm good. And I could tell in my spirit that he wasn't good. So I grabbed his hands and I prayed. And I prayed that the Lord would flow into him, that it would show him that with his introverted personality, that the Lord could use him, that the Lord could use his gifts and his talents to share what his testimony and share Jesus Christ. That, I mean, it was the stuff that poured out of me, and that there is a journey for him, and there's a purpose for him, and that today is the day that the Lord wants to show him that. And whatever else I said, it was unbelievable. But and then I said, can I give you some books? He said, yeah, absolutely. And then you saw at the beginning of the video, I dropped off those books at his RV. And then then he was saying, oh, you should do van life. And I said, yeah, I know. And and I'm like, yeah, I know. And but you really should. And I'm like, I know, thank you. But I said, I'm okay. I may be houseless, but I'm not homeless. And he's like, yeah, that's yeah, awesome. So anyway, that just happened, and praise the Lord. I didn't think that conversation was going to be going anywhere, and it was definitely meant. That whole loop was meant for him to see that encounter, experience the Spirit of God, and he was blown away. So, and his name is Brad. So please pray for him.